Hello. In this video, we'll be going over how to install an updated OS onto the display. So we're going to start here at our support site, so support.crosscontrol.com. If you haven't gained access, you should definitely do that. And we're going to come to display computers and pick the display you're using and want to update, obviously. So in my case, I'm going to be using the VA display. So to update the OS, the latest OS for most of our displays is listed. So let's go to one that has a lot of different operating systems. So you'll see here a lot of times we list the components and the latest versions. So we can see the Linux OS version is 1320, System Supervisor 1310. And if we go here, we'll see operating system, images, and firmware. We'll see a bunch of different versions that we've posted throughout the years. But as we see up here, the latest is 1320. So we can download the different files, which we'll go over in a second. So we're going to use the customer.tar or compressed file. But I am not using an XA. So I'm going to go to the VA. And in this case, the latest operating system is 1.0.0. But I need to update my display to work with our CrossLink AI, which is our telematics module. So right now we have a separate operating system that works for that. And then at some point we're going to merge the two and create a new official version. But for now, so here we can use the customer file if you just wanted to update to 1000. But for now, I'm going to download this one. And I'm going to, looks like it will take a second. So I will come back when this is downloaded. Okay, now we have downloaded the file here, so I skipped ahead in the video a bit, so save you guys the boredom of watching the file slowly download. Alright, so we come to my downloads folder and I can see it here, so I'm gonna go and open the archive with 7-zip, and if I dig a little deeper into this file, I'll see the folder structure, and the file that we actually want is this fullup.sh. So we want all of these files put on the root directory of the USB, or of a USB. So this is the easiest way to update a display. There are several different ways to do it actually, but I would say this is the easiest. So I'm going to come in here and copy all of these to my USB drive. So might take a second. So while we're waiting on this, I'll bring up our support site under the knowledge base. Has instructions on how to update the operating system, and there's several different ways that you can do it. So right now I'll use the USB method because I have access or a USB cable that goes to the display, so it's probably one of the easier ways to do it. But if you don't have that, there are some other options that you can use. So if we come down to the bottom of the list here, updating the display operating system. So we can see, option 1, update from USB. Easy and recommended. So that's what we'll do now. Option 2, auto update the OS from USB. So down here, there's a script with instructions in this zip file on how to put an OS onto a USB with this script, and it will auto update the operating system for you. So you don't need to do anything that we're about to do in this video to update it. Just follow the instructions in the zip file, put the OS on as it says, and stick the USB in the display, and it will update for you. Option 3, we can update from flash memory. So if you don't have a USB drive, you can put the files directly into or onto the display by copying them from your host computer, Windows or Linux, onto the display, and then executing the correct scripts to update from flash memory. The last option, which I don't know that we have here, is actually you can update the X series displays by copying the image file onto the SD card directly. So this isn't the most recommended way, just because you need to remove the SD card and put it back in, and if you do that incorrectly, it's not seated correctly, it can give issues later on. Or if you don't tighten the door allowing access to the SD card, water can leak in, for instance. So this isn't the way that we would really recommend you do it, but it is possible, and we do provide SD card images on our X series displays on the operating system. But okay, so I think we are done here, and you can see all the files were extracted onto the USB. So I'm going to go ahead and extract or eject my USB drive, pull it out, and then put it into my display, and I'll switch over to the virtual machine. Okay, my USB is inserted into the display, and we're going to switch to the virtual machine now. And we are going to log into the display by opening a terminal, logging in. So our USB with the updated operating system is plugged into the display, and we want to update the operating system on the display. So what we need to do, or what we can do first, just for checking, is we can check the current version of the operating system on the display by typing cc settings console -- version. I've created a video around how to check these versions, so I won't go into it too much in this video, but our OS version is 1000. So we're going to update or change that. So we would expect it to change once we've updated. Okay, so now we need to put the display into its backup operating system. So essentially, you can't update the operating system while you're using the operating system. So to actually update the operating system, you need to restart the display into a backup operating system and update the main operating system from that backup. So to do this, we're going to type reboot-rescue.sh and hit enter. So you'll see setting boot to rescue on, calling reboot. So this operating system, the display will now reboot, and I can see it here on my end, but you guys can't quite see that. So it will reboot into a rescue operating system or a backup operating system. So what you'll see is on the display side, like what I'm looking at is the LEDs, I'm working on the VA displays, so the button LEDs are blinking and the screen stays completely black, but the display is actually up. So if I try to connect again, for simplicity, I'll exit out of this, and so the display's up and I can connect again. So right now it's warning me that my RSA key has changed, and that's because I believe the backup operating system has a different key. So it says pretty much it's previously logged a key for this IP address, 192.168.0.2, and it says this is a different key, but the same IP address. We don't trust it. So it sort of gives you instructions here. You can remove that specific key with this command. So I'm just going to copy this command, paste it, and do that. And it says, okay, I've removed the old key. And if I try to connect again, it says, I don't know RSA key now. Do you want to add this or continue connecting? And yes, I do. So done that. Now I can type susroot as the password, and I'm back in the display. So the display is still in the rescue mode or the backup OS right now, but you can move around it just like the normal OS. So in this case, we can, again, the version that we're using is version 1 of the OS, and we're going to change that. So right now, the new OS is located on my USB and plugged into the display. So to get to the USB drive in the display, we're going to go into this media folder. So we're going to CD into that and look here, and we see some USBs. So we're going to go into USB, and if I list out the contents here, we see all of the files and folders in my USB drive that I had plugged into the computer. So if we look in our 7-zip, the file we want is this script called fullup.sh. This is what will actually perform the update. So if we look here, we should see fullup.sh, and it should be a green color. If you don't see it as green, so green color means it's an executable script. If you don't see it as green, you should type chmod plus x fullup.sh and hit enter. And that will essentially make it executable. So if it wasn't green before, you type that, list it out again, you should see it as green. If you're using an XM2, I have seen that the coloring of files and folders is turned off by default. So you'll have to use ls color to see the colors, just as a note. So you won't see any colors on an XM2 by default. Okay, so once it's executable, we can type /fullup.sh and then hit enter. And it's just going to go through the update by itself. So from this point on, it's sort of on its own. Oh, okay, I lied. It does ask you to verify, so it says if yes, press enter. If not, Control-C will cancel. So it asks you if you want to go forward, and it says it checks the checksum of the different files and things to make sure they're correct before it attempts to update. So you just kind of sit back and hope this goes well. So we've sort of already touched on the knowledge base article on how to update the OS earlier in the video, so hopefully that's clear, and in future videos or other videos we'll go over how to update the SS and front controller of certain displays if needed. So you'll see here we've completed. It says rebooting, and I can see on my display, or on the display here, the VA that I'm using, it has rebooted back into the default graphical user interface or the settings application that we have when the display first boots. Okay, so let's go ahead and just check that it worked. So we can exit out of that for simplicity and log back in. So again, now we're in the main operating system again. So the RSA key has changed again. So we're just going to do this one more time. Erase and connect again. So SUSE root. And then we're going to type cc settings console version. And you'll see now we have OS version 0.8.3.255. So this probably looks a little weird just because in this case we've actually technically downgraded the OS instead of upgrading it. But in this case it's because I wanted to use a certain feature that only this OS currently has. So you know, normally you would be upgrading an OS to a version higher than the one you were on. In this case, I'm downgrading to a previous version. But in fact, it has worked because we see it's different here. So that was a success. And again, if you don't have a USB connection to the displays, please go check out the knowledge base article on updating the display operating system. It provides several different options for updating the OS of a display, whether or not you have USB. Okay, that does it for this video. Thanks.